Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Turin here with another Warhammer Total War online commentary. In this particular battle, I'll be playing the Wood Elves, and I'm going to be facing off against the Empire, so definitely a fun time, and I hope you guys enjoyed this build. This has actually kind of quickly become my go-to build against the Empire, and I found it to be pretty strong, so again, any opinions you guys have, I'd love to hear them, and let me know your thoughts. So as far as the army composition goes, I usually start off, and I'm going to go ahead and pause this actually, because more often than not with the Wood Elves, the gameplay actually gets started a little quicker than I'd like in terms of going over the army composition. So I do have two Glade Riders with the Hagbane tips, so I like these guys a lot. They help defend against Cav, as they do have over, well, when buffed right now, they do have over 100 speed, but I believe their base is 95. So especially against Empire, they're going to be able to outrun Demogryph Knights, all that kind of stuff. And applying that poison and kiting them around also makes it quite a bit easier to defend your back line. So for example, if they're trying to flank you or get into some of your squishier targets with, some Demogryph Knights or anything like that, you can poison them, and then that allows your Eternal Guards here a little bit more time to kind of get in position and deal with them. So I like these guys a lot, and they're fairly micro intensive, but if you stay on top of it, I think they're a good pick in this build. So got these guys, and big fan. So as far as my front line goes, I've mostly Eternal Guards with shields. So the Empire, not always, but a lot of the time they will bring crossbows and, all those type of things. And granted, on top of that, the Eternal Guards with the shields do have higher melee defense. I believe they have 43 as compared to the 36 of the standard traditional non-shielded version. So having that, against the Empire infantry, makes them last a little bit longer, makes them slightly more durable. So I'm a fan of the shields in this matchup as well. In the secondary line, I do have the Treekin. So these guys are probably one of the, my favorite unit in the Wood Elves roster. Just very tanky, just very... I guess I'm just kind of being redundant here, but they're just very, very sturdy. And they have pretty good combat stats across the board, having 54 melee defense, which is quite high. They also have 55 weapon strength. They do magic damage, so in some matchups that would be pertinent. Not so much here, but still just a very, very good unit. And also on top of that, they have good armor and pretty high leadership. So they do cause fear, I believe, so can't complain. And then, of course, I have Big Papa Durthu back here. He's lurking somewhere in the tree line with his Optimus Prime outfit going on. So big fan of him, obviously. I've been wanting to try the sword activated ability he has. So if you guys have had experience with that, let me know in the comments below. I'm actually curious. And I'm speaking more specifically not to his activatable missile attack, but to the sword activation that he has. I actually haven't tried it yet. But he does have Flock of Doom. He causes terror, has fear. It's just a very strong unit, and I like him a lot in the roster. And obviously, you can get away with using big, I wouldn't say clunky, but big units like this, especially if you have a Branch Wraith with healing capabilities. So big fan of this guy. In the back here, I do have a last group of Eternal Guard just to kind of wrap up my flank, protect my back line, and then Branch Wraith with healing capabilities. And then on each flank, I have a Waystalker. Waystalkers are just so good in this matchup. You can really snipe out heroic wizard units and even like a Karl Franz type unit. Even though they don't have armor piercing, they still have 419 missile damage. So I mean, they're going to do some serious damage. And then their activatable missile attack is really, really strong. So I really like having these guys. And honestly, I found that at least in this matchup, just having two Waystalkers and these Glade Riders is usually enough missile harass. I've been getting away with it, but granted, I'm sure there's better builds. But anyways, my opponent's build, he does have Boris Todbringer over here. He's going to bring some more to the Elves. The Royal Altdorf Gryphite. So these guys do have an anti-large bonus and armor piercing. So if they're able to get on Durthu, it's going to be pretty scary. And let's see, he's got a front line of spears with shields, which is pretty good. Anti-large is pertinent against the Treemen, and they're very expendable, very cheap, and you can usually do the trick. He does have a steam tank, which does cause terror and hits pretty hard. So we'll see how that goes for him. He has a light wizard. It looks like he has some crossbowmen here, and then on top of that, he does have a bright wizard. So he does have the flaming sword of ruin. It looks like he has fireball and the cascading fire cloak. So definitely some good choices going on all around. Then, of course, more the fun stuff. Let's get right down to business here, guys. He does have the Knights of the Blazing Sun. So these guys, 41 melee attack when buffed here, and they do have that fire damage. So if he's able to kind of get them onto my, Treekin here and Durthu, who do take substantial kind of, fire detriments. And I believe, what is it on these guys? I can't quite click, but I guess we can check on Durthu. So if we go ahead and click here and then check, let's go ahead and see. So 40% extra damage. So hopefully it won't come to that. And let's go ahead and get started. Sorry for the long-winded description. Just learning a lot of these new units. So hopefully you guys don't mind that. But right now, it looks like my opponent is moving up, and you can see the steam tank taking some pot shots here, and it actually just took out 4 models with that one shot. So he's already getting pretty good value out of that steam tank, and the steam tank itself is very heavily armored with 160 armor. And aside from Durthu and my Eternal Guards, I don't have a ton of armor piercing, so it definitely will be tricky. But you can see the Waystalkers use their snipe ability, and it does a lot of damage to these Knights of the Blazing Sun. I believe it took out 6 models there, and look at the HP damage. And the cooldown on that actually isn't that long. So right now I'm coming around with the Glade Riders. I probably should have taken off their auto fire. I was just kind of positioning them, trying to harass these Knights of the Blazing Sun. They are taking some pot shots at these Spearmen at shields, which is a huge waste of ammo. But still, my opponent uses a fireball, and I quickly realize that I'm wasting my ammo. But look at the damage that does. So very well played of my opponent using that fireball. He's already been able to take out quite a few models here. and you know, things are going pretty well for him. So my main line here is advancing. You can see the Waystalkers just shooting as they come in. You know, that's one thing to be, you know, cognizant of, is you might want to take off that fire at will and just have them, you know, shoot at pertinent targets, because ammunition in a lot of matchups, not so much against the Empire, but especially against the Dwarves, is pretty substantial. So right now I actually switched my fire right onto this Bright Wizard, so you can see my Waystalkers will be able to start sniping him here shortly. And in the back line, my opponent's kind of he's playing pretty close to the sleeve here. He's kind of just trying to see and feel me out and probably get an ideal charge on tree cannon and all that. So I'm just kind of mirroring his movements with those Glade Riders in the back and getting ready to engage in the front line. So you can see the snipe ability. I've actually been shooting him with those Waystalkers and moving them up, and he's actually taking a ton of damage. If you guys go ahead and look at his HP, he's already at half health. So being able to get rid of that lower fire, you know, in that kind of rapid way is going to be quite good. So the Eternal Guards are going to get in here and they're going to engage in, you know, battle of spears, to say the least. But when the tree get in here, they are going to suffer against the anti-large bonus, but still, you know, spearmen are pretty low tier units. So you can see they're already knocking them around. And also on top of that, Durthu is getting in here, so very, very good stuff there. Durthu, of course, I have to be careful because he's getting focused by the steam tank, and you know, all of these guys is going to be pretty scary. But he marches through and is able to chop some heads off, so he's already doing pretty well for himself. But still, he's taking massive damage. And my opponent's pressuring me pretty hard back here. You can see I did set up like the shield wall here, trying to figure out where he was going. And now that he did commit here, I'm able to collapse on him with these Eternal Guards and should be able to do pretty well. And also on that same note, I'm able to kite these guys pretty well back here. You can see these Blade Riders here, you're poisoning them, slowing them down. Then this other group's shooting at them from that angle. These Waystalkers are crossfiring at them. So this is exactly what you want to do in this matchup. Somewhat micro-intensive, but it definitely works out quite well. Durthu is taking a huge beating here, but I was able to heal him a little bit with Lifeblood, and now he's sustained a little bit. He's getting there. He's kind of steady, and he's laying a bit of a pim slapping on some of those units in there. But my opponent did get the Royal Altdorf Griffites, but they've been taking quite a beating from these Eternal Guards with their armor piercing, and also those Waystalkers and other units are doing pretty good. So you can see Big Papa Durthu is running. He did use another Flock of Doom in here, which is doing really well against the low-tier infantry. You can see the perpetual sniping of the Waystalkers is doing really good to take out this Bright Wizard. I believe is he broken now? He is broken, so very, very good situation there. You can see the tree cannon here just continuing to stomp the yard with the support of the Eternal Guards, and it's definitely one of my favorite synergies. Kind of the mixture of these two units. It really provides you with sustainable armor piercing damage, you know, and then that really kind of heavy duty backline support from the tree cannon, who can hit really hard against, you know, low tier or low armored units. So really like that synergy with the Wood Elves. He does have Boris Todbringer in here, and Durthu did have to retreat, but now he's going to come in and just absolutely lay the smackdown on Boris, most likely. Granted, Boris is a pretty strong duelist with 450 weapon strength, but he doesn't have the armor piercing. I mean, granted, he does do some armor piercing damage, but he's not going to have the same result there. And you can see the Glade Riders are continuing to kite these units around with the support of the Waystalkers. This Knight of the Blazing Sun back here continuing to get kited, poisoned, moving his speed actually down to 55. So pretty big deal there. My opponent, though, is able to kind of pull these Knights of the Blazing Sun in and start pressuring my Waystalker, and also gets a nice little rear charge on some of my Eternal Guards, but still there's a lot of spears running around, and even though it looks like they're getting knocked around badly, each of these kind of atrocious trades is not good, and you can see Durthu was able to catch up with Boris and terrify him and just lay the smack down. I mean, that was 1 or 2 auto attacks. That's a pretty substantial beating he took, and we'll see here. I don't know if my opponent was able to catch this right away, but he gets in there, and look at the damage that does. And I feel like Durthu, he connects a lot. You know, he takes a fireball there as well, but as you guys saw in my previous video, the fireball isn't as big of a deal. But yeah, I feel like he always makes contact. You know, sometimes there's heroic units that look like they're just kind of hitting and missing a lot, but he always seems to do pretty well for himself. So things are going pretty well in the front line. My opponent does have some spears left, but with their leader routing, and it looks like, what is he? It looks like he also has a light wizard, so I wonder what he brought with that. Looks like he has the nets of Amnitok, which is pretty good, because you can net down, you know, the mobile units, but I don't think I was quite in range for that. But using those Waystalkers to just snipe wizards, guys, I think that's the key to success in this matchup, and you know, probably in a multitude of matchups. But he's continuing to shoot me with the fireball. Durthu does have some magic resist, and thankfully these Knights of the Blazing Sun aren't around. They might be able to get in there and do some damage, but you can see they were kited out by the Glade Riders back here. That's definitely very frustrating to try and catch these guys with Cav, but I think Nets of Amnitok, my opponent had the right idea, just using that to kind of net them down and just really, really punish them to be quite cost effective. And these Eternal Guards, they do have armor piercing, though their weapon strength is really low. Over the course of a long battle, they can chip away at a steam tank, because they can, you know, get through some of that armor. And these tree can obviously are not designed to get through this, but just smacking this steel with wood. But it looks like they eventually got there, and that's all she wrote for my opponent. So definitely a good game. It's fun seeing Boris Todbringer in action. You don't see him terribly often, but let's go ahead and take a look at the breakdown. So you know, these trees, they did their business. The Glade Riders were able to kite around his horses and all that kind of fun business. So I can't complain at all. And also just these Eternal Guards, I feel like they're one of the most cost-effective infantry. And again, like I mentioned in previous videos, I feel like they really harken back to the, the Bretonnian men-at-arms with polearms. They're just sturdy, they have charge defense, they have armor piercing, very durable for how much they cost. And they really allow units like your Waystalkers and your Skirmishers to thrive. So, and also, Durthio, I was surprised he survived with the steam tank and all that fire damage, but still, it's hard to really get an effective engage on him if you keep him among the Eternal Guards, but still, missile fire is definitely his downfall. And as you guys saw, he took a huge beating early on. But anyways, really well played to my opponent. What was I going to say there? My opponent, Runelord Thoric Ironbrow. Look forward to seeing you again on ladder, and I hope you guys enjoyed that Wood Elves cast. Have an excellent night, and take care.